My father demanded my entire promotion bonus to fund my sister's post-divorce healing trip. I agreed, but instead of cash, I handed over a credit card with strict merchant codes. When the alerts pinged for luxury goods instead of hotels, I called the bank and initiated a total lockdown. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The email notification pinged on my laptop screen at exactly 9:45 p.m. I was the only soul left on the 14th floor of the logistics firm, where I had spent the last 7 years grinding my bones into dust. Subject: performance bonus and promotion confirmation. I didn't open it immediately. I just stared at the bold font, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was it. The big one. The senior director of operations role came with a salary bump that was substantial, but the performance bonus attached to the last fiscal year's miracle turnaround I had orchestrated was life-changing. $50,000. Lump sum. I finally clicked it. The numbers were real. For the first time in months, the tension headache that lived permanently behind my left eye seemed to recede. I wasn't just tired, I was hollowed out. I was 32 years old, and my entire existence had been defined by spreadsheets, crisis management, and the distinct lack of a personal life. But looking at that figure, I felt a warm wave of justification. It was worth it. I could finally pay off the remainder of my mortgage. I could finally breathe. I closed my laptop, the first time I had shut it before midnight in 3 weeks, and drove home in a daze of exhausted euphoria. My house was dark when I arrived, a sanctuary of silence. I dropped my keys on the counter, poured a glass of cheap wine. I hadn't had time to buy the good stuff, and sank into the sofa. I just wanted to sit in the quiet and let the reality of my financial freedom wash over me. Then the doorbell rang. It wasn't a polite chime, it was 3 rapid, aggressive bursts. My stomach dropped. It was 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. There was only one person who knocked like they were serving a warrant. I opened the door to find my father, Robert, standing on the porch. He didn't look like a man visiting his daughter. He looked like a man on a mission. He bypassed a greeting entirely, brushing past me into the hallway as he pulled off his rain-slicked coat. "You're not answering your phone, Margaret," he said, his voice clipped. "I was working, Dad," I said, closing the door and fighting the sudden drain on my energy. "I just got home. Is everything okay? Is Mom okay?" "Your mother is fine. It's Mia," he said, marching into the living room and taking the spot on the sofa I had just vacated. He looked at the glass of wine on the table and frowned, as if my relaxation was an insult to the crisis he was carrying. "We need to talk about your sister." I stayed standing, leaning against the doorframe. Mia, my younger sister, the golden child who had never held a job for longer than 6 months and whose recent divorce had been the centerpiece of every family conversation for the last half-year. "What about her?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Is she hurt?" "She's devastated, Margaret. Devastated," Robert said, shaking his head theatrically. "I went over there today. She can't get out of bed. The divorce papers were finalized yesterday. She's a wreck. She feels like her life is over at 28. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it, though my sympathy was tempered by years of watching Mia weaponize her emotions. "But what can I do at this hour, Dad?" Robert looked up at me, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made me uneasy. "I heard about the promotion, and the bonus." I stiffened. "Who told you?" "Your cousin mentioned you posted about the new title on LinkedIn. I know how these corporate structures work, Margaret. A senior director role comes with a signing payout or a performance retroactive. I know you came into money today." The violation of privacy was sudden and sharp. He had been calculating my finances before he even walked through the door. "I did," I said slowly. "I worked very hard for it." "Good," Robert said, slapping his knees as if the matter was settled. "Because Mia needs it. She needs a fresh start. She needs to get away from this city, from the memories of that apartment. I was looking at packages. A world tour, 6 months. Bali, Paris, Rome. She needs to eat, pray, and love her way back to sanity. I blinked, sure I had misheard him. You want me to pay for a vacation? Not a vacation, he corrected sharply. A mental health recovery journey, and not just pay for it. I want you to give her the bonus. The $50,000. It's the right amount to ensure she's safe and comfortable while she heals. The silence that filled the room was heavy, suffocating. He wasn't asking. He was instructing. Dad, I whispered, the betrayal tasting like bile in my throat. That money is for my mortgage. It's for my retirement. I earned that money by working 80-hour weeks while Mia was doing whatever Mia does. Mia was trying to build a family, Robert snapped, his face reddening. And now she has nothing. You have everything, Margaret. You have the house, the career, the stability. You are the strong one. You always have been. It is your duty to lift your sister up when she falls. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis of the workload itself, I thought, looking at my father's expectant face. He didn't see me as his daughter. He saw me as an ATM with a pulse. The argument lasted for 2 hours. It was a circular firing squad of guilt, manipulation, and historical revisionism. Robert paced my living room, listing every sacrifice he had ever made for me, every tuition payment, every brace's appointment, weaponizing his parenthood to pry my hard-earned security out of my hands. You are cold, he spat at one point, stopping inches from my face. You sit there with your bank account full, watching your little sister drown. What happened to you? When did you become so greedy? Greedy? The word stung more than I wanted to admit. I looked around my modest living room. I drove a 5-year-old sedan. I clipped coupons. I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. Mia drove a leased luxury SUV and wore designer clothes she couldn't afford, funded by credit cards that Robert usually paid off. But I was the greedy one. By midnight, exhaustion had eroded my defenses. I knew they wouldn't stop. If I said no, Robert would make my life a living hell. He would poison the rest of the family against me, turning Thanksgiving and Christmas into battlegrounds. I just wanted peace. I wanted him to leave. Fine, I said, my voice cracking. I'll help her. Robert's demeanor instantly shifted from aggression to benevolence. He smiled, the loving father once again. I knew you'd do the right thing, Mags, I knew it. But, I raised a hand, stopping him before he could hug me. I am not transferring $50,000 cash into Mia's account. We both know what happens when she has liquidity. It vanishes. Robert bristled. She's grieving, not irresponsible. She's both, I said flatly. If this is for travel, for healing, then I will facilitate that. I have a Platinum Rewards travel card. It has a high limit. I will add her as an authorized user. She can use it for flights, hotels, and dining. I will pay the bill using the bonus money. That way, she doesn't have to worry about logistics, and I can track the budget. Robert hesitated. He clearly wanted the cash. He wanted the lump sum handover, the total surrender of control. But he also saw the resolve in my eyes. He knew this was the only offer on the table. Fine, he said, waving a hand dismissively. As long as she has access, she needs to book the flights tomorrow. She wants to leave by the weekend. I'll set it up tonight, I said. But Dad, listen to me closely. This is for travel, accommodation, food, essential transport. If she tries to buy a car or, I don't know, invest in a startup, the card gets cut. She's not going to buy a car, Margaret, Robert scoffed, pulling his coat back on. She's going to find herself on a beach in Bali. You're being paranoid. He left 5 minutes later, whistling as he walked to his car. I watched him go, feeling a profound sense of nausea. I wasn't just losing the money, I was losing the last shred of respect I had for the dynamic in this family. I went to my laptop and logged into my banking portal. I initiated the request for an authorized user card for Mia. But as I filled out the forms, a thought occurred to me. A dark, cynical thought born of a lifetime of watching Mia operate. Trust, but verify. Or rather, don't trust at all. I didn't just add her. I went into the advanced security settings of the credit card account. I set up real-time SMS alerts for every single transaction over $1. I set a hard cap on the supplementary card, not at the full $50,000 limit, but at $5,000 for the first week, adjustable only by me. And then I did something else. I remembered a specific feature this high-end card offered: merchant category code restrictions. It was usually used for corporate cards to prevent employees from spending per diems at casinos or jewelry stores. I had never used it on a personal account, but the option was there deep in the submenus. I hovered over the Restrict Categories button. They had forgotten one crucial thing, I whispered to the empty room. I am the primary account holder. I own the debt, which means I own the rules. I didn't activate the restrictions, yet I wanted to give her a chance. A single chance. But I bookmarked the page. I wanted to believe my father was right. I wanted to believe Mia just needed a break. But the knot in my stomach told me I was preparing for war. The next day, I met Riley for lunch. Riley had been my best friend since college, a no-nonsense corporate attorney who had seen me cry over my family more times than she cared to count. We sat in a bustling bistro near my office. I looked like a ghost. She looked impeccable in her navy suit. "You did what?" Riley asked, her fork freezing halfway to her mouth. "I gave her the card," I mumbled, staring at my untouched salad. "Riley, you didn't see him. He was relentless. He acted like I was stealing food from a starving child." Riley dropped her fork with a clatter. "Margaret, Mia is 28. She isn't starving. She's divorced because she refused to get a job and her husband got tired of funding her lifestyle influencer aspirations. You know that, I know that. Even the mailman knows that." "I know," I sighed, rubbing my temples. "But it's the bonus. Dad feels entitled to it. He thinks because I'm single and rich, his words, that I have a duty to redistribute my wealth." "It's financial abuse," Riley said, her voice low and dangerous. "He's using you as an insurance policy for his own bad parenting. He spoiled her rotten, ruined her work ethic, and now that he's retiring and can't afford her, he's passing the bill to you." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Please tell me you protected yourself." "I set up alerts," I said. "And I didn't give her the cash, it's credit. I can see what she buys." "She's going to max it out," Riley warned. "She's going to buy things she can resell. Or she's going to book refundable tickets, cancel them to her own personal account, and pocket the credit. You need to watch her like a hawk." I hadn't even thought of the refund scam. Riley's legal brain was always 3 steps ahead of the criminal mind. "I will," I promised. That evening, I went to my parents' house to drop off the physical card which I had express shipped to my address. Mia was there, lounging on the patio furniture, looking less like a grieving divorcee and more like a bored queen waiting for her tribute. She looked up as I approached, her eyes scanning my hands for the envelope. "Did you bring it?" she asked. "No hello, no how are you?" "It's here," I said, holding the envelope tight. "Mia, we need to be clear. This is for travel expenses. Flights, hotels, meals, nothing else." She snatched the envelope from my hand with a speed that belied her supposed depression. "I know, Margaret. God, you're such a control freak. Dad already gave me the lecture. I just want to go to Italy and forget my name for a while." She tore open the envelope and looked at the sleek metal card. A slow smile spread across her face, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was a look of pure, unadulterated acquisition. "Thanks," she said dismissively, already pulling out her phone, presumably to start booking. "You're a lifesaver, literally." "Just be careful," I said, feeling a chill despite the warm evening air. "I get alerts for everything." Yeah, she waved me off. "Don't stalk me while I'm eating pasta in Rome, okay? Let me live." I turned to leave, and that's when I saw him. A man I didn't recognize was sitting in the corner of the garden, hidden by the trellis. He was watching us. He was older than Mia, maybe mid-30s, wearing a suit that was too shiny and a watch that looked expensive but fake. "Who is that?" I whispered to Robert, who was coming out of the kitchen with lemonade. "Oh, that's Julian," Robert said, beaming. "Mia's life coach. He's helping her plan the spiritual side of the trip. Nice guy, very visionary." I looked back at Julian. He caught my eye and didn't smile. He just nodded, a slow, predatory dip of his chin. He didn't look like a life coach. He looked like a shark-smelling chum in the water. He's helping her plan the spending, I thought, a sudden realization hitting me. Mia wasn't smart enough to drain $50,000 efficiently. But this guy, he looked like he had a PhD in extraction. I walked to my car, my phone already in my hand. I opened the banking app. "Riley was right," I muttered, starting the engine. "This isn't a vacation, it's a heist." The first charge hit my phone on Wednesday morning at 11:15 a.m. I was in the middle of a quarterly budget review with the regional VPs. My phone was face down on the mahogany conference table, silenced, but the vibration against the wood was audible. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, it buzzed again. Then again. 3 rapid vibrations in the span of 60 seconds. A knot formed in my stomach, tight and cold. "Excuse me," I murmured to the room. "I need to check this." I flipped the phone over. The screen was lit up with notifications from the bank app. Transaction alert. CARTIER $8,450. Transaction alert. Louis VUITTON $4,200. Transaction alert. SAKS Fifth Avenue $3. 100. My breath hitched. I stared at the numbers, trying to make sense of them. Mia was supposed to be booking flights. She was supposed to be looking for an Airbnb in Tuscany or a retreat in Bali. These weren't travel expenses. These were hard luxury goods. But it was the location stamp on the transaction details that made the room spin. Location, the Galleria. The Galleria was the high-end shopping mall 20 minutes from my office. It wasn't in Rome. It wasn't in Paris. It was in downtown Houston. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I have to take a 10-minute recess. I walked out of the conference room, my heels clicking sharply on the tile, and dialed Riley immediately. She picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you're not calling to tell me she bought a jet," Riley said. "She spent $15,000 in 12 minutes, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of rage and adrenaline. "Riley, she's at the Galleria. She's not booking a trip. She's shopping." "Stop the card," Riley said instantly. "Freeze it right now." "No," I said, leaning against the glass wall of the corridor, watching the city traffic below. A cold, strategic calm was beginning to replace the panic. If I freeze it now, she'll claim it was a misunderstanding. She'll say she was buying essential travel gear or luggage. She'll gaslight Dad into thinking I'm being controlling. I need more. "Margaret, that's 15 grand of your debt," Riley warned. "I have the money to cover it if I have to, though it will kill me," I said. "But I need to see the pattern. I need to see exactly what she's doing. She's with that guy, Julian, I know it." "The life coach." "The shark," I corrected. "Riley, can you run him? His name is Julian Vane. He's supposedly a spiritual advisor for divorcees. He drives a leased C-Class and wears loafers that cost more than my car." "I'm on it," Riley said, the sound of her typing already audible in the background. "I have access to the private investigator databases. Give me an hour. But Margaret, don't let her max that card out. There's a point of no return." "I set the limit at 50,000, I lied. I hadn't told anyone about the internal limit I'd set in the dashboard. The card would decline at 20,000. I had 5,000 left of runway before she hit the wall. I went back into the meeting, but my mind was elsewhere. I watched the phone. 12:30 p.m., Apple Store, $4,500. 3 MacBook Pros for a honeymoon. 1:15 p.m., GUCCI, $2,800. She was methodical. She was hitting every high resale value store in the mall. This wasn't shopping for herself. This was liquidation. She, or Julian, was buying items that could be flipped for cash immediately. At 1:45 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Dad, so proud of you for helping your sister. She just texted me. She's so happy. She says the trip planning is going great. She's booking the villas now." I stared at the text. The audacity was breathtaking. She was texting him lies while swiping my card at the Apple Store 5 miles away. "Okay," I whispered to myself. "You want to play games? Let's play." I opened the banking app. I didn't freeze the card. Instead, I took a screenshot of the transaction log. Then I opened the merchant category code tool I had bookmarked the night before. I checked the settings. The card was flagged as a travel and entertainment authorized user account. I initiated a call to the bank's fraud department. "CD Prestige, this is Marcus. How can I help you, Ms. Danning?" "Hi, Marcus," I said, my voice professionally crisp. "I'm looking at some transactions on my supplementary card ending in 4098. I need to clarify something. If I authorized this user strictly for travel expenses, flights and hotels, and the card is being used for retail goods in my home city, does that count as authorized usage under the terms of the supplementary agreement?" "Well," Marcus hesitated. "Technically, if you gave her the card, she's authorized to spend up to the limit. However, if you can prove the card was issued under a specific verbal or written contract for a specific purpose, and that purpose was violated, you can file a dispute for misuse of authorized funds. But it's messy. Usually, we recommend freezing the card." "I don't want to just freeze it, Marcus," I said. "I want to flag these transactions as fraudulent. The user was authorized for travel merchants only. These are retail purchases. I want to prepare a dispute for every single transaction made today." "You want to dispute charges made by your sister?" "I want to dispute charges made by a thief," I said. "Prepare the paperwork. I'll call you back to execute the order in 2 hours." I hung up. The trap was armed. Now I just needed to see the rat. I left work early. I didn't go home. I drove straight to my parents' house. My father's car was in the driveway. Mia's SUV was there too. They were home. The shop. Inkspre was over, or at least paused. I walked up the driveway, clutching a printed stack of papers, the transaction log I had printed at the office. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from a seething, cold anger that felt like ice water in my veins. I unlocked the front door and walked in. The living room was a scene of celebration. There were shopping bags everywhere. The distinct orange of Hermes, the black of Chanel, the white of Apple. Mia was sitting on the floor, unboxing a handbag that cost more than my first car. Robert was sitting in his armchair, beaming at her, a glass of scotch in his hand. Julian was there, too, leaning against the mantel, looking smug. They froze when they saw me. "Margaret," Robert said, his smile faltering slightly at the look on my face. "We didn't expect you. Mia was just showing us the gear she bought for the trip." "Gear," I repeated, my voice flat. I walked over to the coffee table and dropped the stack of papers. It landed with a heavy thud. "I didn't know you needed 3 MacBook Pros for a spiritual journey to Bali, Mia," I said, staring directly at my sister. Mia scrambled to her feet, clutching the Chanel bag to her chest like a shield. I need to stay connected. I'm going to start a travel vlog. Julian said I need high-quality equipment to edit the footage." "And the Hermes bag?" I asked, pointing to the orange box. "Is that for hiking? And the Cartier bracelet? Is that for improved aerodynamics?" "You're being ridiculous," Mia snapped, her face flushing pink. "I need to look the part. I'm going to Europe, Margaret. People dress up there. I can't go walking around looking like you." The insult landed, but I didn't flinch. I turned to my father. "Dad," I said, pointing to the bags. "Look at this. Look at the room. Does this look like travel expenses to you? This is $20,000 of merchandise, bought at the Galleria. Today." Robert looked at the bags, then at me, then at Mia. He blinked, clearly struggling to reconcile his narrative with the reality in front of him. "Well," Robert stammered, Maybe she went a little overboard, but she's excited, Margaret. She's trying to build a new life. This vlog idea, Julian says it could be very lucrative. I spun around to face Julian. He didn't look intimidated. He looked bored. You must be Julian, I said, the visionary. Pleasure, he said, his voice smooth and oily. Margaret, right? You seem very stressed. You're bringing a lot of negative energy into a space of healing. I'm bringing a fraud investigation, I said. The room went silent. What? Mia whispered. I tracked the spending, I said, my voice rising for the first time. I know you didn't book a single flight. I know you didn't book a hotel. You spent the day liquidating my credit line into resellable assets. And let me guess, I looked at Julian. You know a guy who buys luxury goods for cash, don't you? No questions asked. Julian's smile tightened just a fraction. I don't know what you're talking about. I merely advised Mia to invest in herself. Dad, I said, turning back to Robert. They are stealing from me. This isn't a honeymoon, it's a cash out. They are going to sell this stuff, pocket the cash, and Mia is going to stay right here. That is a lie, Mia screamed, tears instantly springing to her eyes. Daddy, tell her to stop. She's ruining everything. She's jealous because I'm going to be famous and she's just a boring corporate drone. Robert stood up, his face red. Margaret, that is enough. You gave her the money. You said she could use it. How she uses it is up to her discretion. Stop policing her happiness. Discretion, I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. I said travel expenses. I have the text messages, Dad. I have the agreement. This, I kicked a Chanel bag, is theft. It's a gift, Robert shouted. Family helps family. If you don't like it, fine. But don't come in here accusing your sister of being a criminal. Apologize to her. Now. I looked at my father. I looked at the man who had raised me, the man I had spent my whole life trying to please, trying to impress with my grades, my career, my stability. And in that moment, I saw him clearly. He would burn me alive to keep Mia warm. No, I said quietly. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Mia asked, her voice trembling. I'm calling the bank, I said. I'm putting you on speaker. The phone rang twice before the automated system connected me to the priority line. I had already escalated the case earlier, so I was routed straight to the fraud specialist I had spoken to, Marcus. Speaker, I announced to the room. Everyone be quiet. CD Prestige, this is Marcus. The voice filled the silent living room. Marcus, it's Margaret Danning. I'm verifying the status of the account ending in 4098. Can you confirm the merchant restrictions on that authorized user card? Yes, Ms. Danning, Marcus said, his voice clear and professional. Per your instructions yesterday, the authorized user card was flagged for travel categories only: airlines, hotels, car rentals. Any retail transactions were to be flagged as unauthorized use. Mia's face went white. Robert looked confused. And, I continued, staring dead at Julian. Can you tell me what the status is of the $22,000 in charges made today at the Galleria? We have flagged them as suspected unauthorized activity, Marcus replied. Since they do not match the merchant category codes you approved, and since you have stated the user did not have permission for retail purchases, we are initiating a chargeback dispute for every transaction. The card has been suspended. Thank you, Marcus, I said. And what happens to the person who made the charges? Well, Marcus paused. If the primary cardholder, that's you, confirms this was theft or misuse of a financial instrument, we turn the file over to the local authorities for investigation. It's credit card fraud, Ms. Danning. It's a felony for amounts over $2,000. The word felony hung in the air like smoke. Wait, Mia screamed, lunging for the phone. Hang up, hang up. I pulled the phone away. Marcus, hold on 1 second. I hit the mute button. You have 5 minutes, I said to Mia, who was now hyperventilating. You have 5 minutes to explain to me why I shouldn't tell Marcus to file the police report right now. You can't do that to your sister, Robert roared. Margaret, end this call. You are destroying this family. She stole $20,000, Dad, I yelled back, my composure finally snapping. She stole it, and she, I pointed at Julian, is doing it for him. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was a text from Riley. Riley, I got him. Julian Vane, real name Julian Vance. He has 2 prior convictions for fraud in Florida and Georgia. He runs a romance scam ring where he convinces women to liquidate assets for spiritual journeys or investments and then vanishes with the cash. Margaret, get out of there. I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked at Julian. He wasn't bored anymore. His eyes were narrow, calculating. He realized his cover was blown. Dad, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Look at your phone. I just forwarded you a file. Robert fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. He opened the message. I watched his eyes scan the mugshot Riley had sent. Julian Vance, I read aloud. Convicted fraudster, known associate of the sweetheart swindle ring. Mia gasped. She looked at Julian. Julian, what is this? Julian pushed off the mantle. He didn't look at Mia. He looked at me. You're a very smart girl, Margaret, but you're making a mistake. These are gifts. Mia bought them. She has the receipts. And I have the debt, I said, which means I own the items. And since the card was used fraudulently, the bank owns them now. They're evidence. I unmuted the phone. Marcus, are you there? Yes, Ms. Danning. Initiate the dispute, I said, my eyes locked on Julian. Mark every single transaction today as unauthorized. And Marcus, please note that I will be providing the identity of the third party who facilitated the fraud. Understood. The dispute is filed. The retailers will be notified immediately to flag the serial numbers of the purchased electronics as stolen property. I hung up. The MacBooks are bricks now, I said to Julian. You can't sell them. The serials are burned. Julian's face twisted into a sneer. He looked at Mia, who was sobbing into her hands. You said your sister was a pushover. You said she was a checkbook. I thought she was, Mia wailed. Julian spat on the floor, actually spat on my mother's carpet, and walked toward the door. I'm done. Figure this mess out yourself, Mia. Julian, wait. Mia scrambled up, trying to grab his arm, but he shoved her off. The front door slammed shut, shaking the frame. The silence that followed was deafening. Mia lay on the floor, surrounded by luxury bags that were now evidence in a felony investigation. Robert stood frozen, staring at the mugshot on his phone. Mia looked up at me, her mascara running down her face in black streaks. You chased him away. You ruined my life. He loved me. He was robbing you, you idiot, I screamed. He was robbing me through you. It doesn't matter, Robert suddenly spoke up. His voice was quiet, trembling with a bizarre, twisted logic. You humiliated her. You humiliated us. You brought the police into this? The bank, Margaret, fix this. Call them back. Tell them it was a mistake. Pay the bill. I stared at him. He had seen the mugshot. He had seen the fraud, and he was still asking me to pay. Fix it, Robert demanded, stepping closer, or you are no daughter of mine. I looked at the man who had demanded my bonus. I looked at the sister who would drain me dry and blame me for the drought. Oh, I said, I won't fix it, but I will finish it. I turned and walked to the door. I'm leaving. The dispute stands. If you want to keep those bags, you pay for them, Dad. You have 30 days before the bank sends the debt collectors to Mia. I walked out into the cool night air. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in my life, my conscience was clean. I had declared war. Now I just had to win the peace. The summons arrived 2 days later. It wasn't a text. It was a formal email from my father, copying my Aunt Linda, Uncle Jerry, and my grandmother. The subject line read, Family mediation and resolution regarding Margaret's conduct. It was a trap. A classic, circle the wagons maneuver. Robert knew he couldn't win on facts, so he was pivoting to the court of public opinion. He was inviting the extended family to shame me into submission. He wanted to surround me with the blood is thicker than water brigade until I cracked and wrote the check to cover the debt. I showed the email to Riley. She didn't laugh. She just started packing her briefcase. "I'm coming with you," she said. "If he wants a mediation, he gets a mediator, but I'm bringing a tape recorder." We arrived at my parents' house on Sunday afternoon. The driveway was full. It looked like Thanksgiving. My stomach churned, a visceral reaction to 20 years of being the family scapegoat, but I touched the folder of documents in my bag, my shield, and stepped out of the car. When we walked in, the silence was instant. They were all seated around the large oak dining table, Robert at the head, looking solemn and aggrieved, Mia next to him, looking pale and small, Aunt Linda and Uncle Jerry on the sides, arms crossed, their faces set in masks of disappointment. "Margaret," Robert said, his voice deep and theatrical. "And, Riley, we didn't expect you to bring legal counsel to a family dinner." "It's not a dinner, Robert," Riley said smoothly, taking a seat next to me without asking. "Your email subject line said mediation. As Margaret's attorney, I'm here to facilitate." "We don't need attorneys," Aunt Linda sniffed. "We need compassion. Margaret, your father told us everything. He told us how you dangled that money in front of poor Mia, how you set her up to fail, and how you humiliated her in front of her. Friend." "Is that what he told you?" I asked, placing my folder on the table. I looked at Mia. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was staring at her hands, trembling slightly. "He said you called the police on your own sister," Uncle Jerry grumbled. "Over a misunderstanding, over some handbags. Margaret, we know you have a high-pressure job, but this is cruel. You have the money. Why destroy Mia's life over a credit card bill?" "Because it wasn't a bill," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering. "It was a crime." "Oh, stop it." Robert slammed his hand on the table. "She made a mistake. She bought things she thought she needed. She was distraught, Margaret. She wasn't thinking clearly. And instead of helping her return them, you froze the account and threatened jail time. You are trying to assert dominance because you're jealous that we were helping her plan a trip." "I'm not jealous, Dad," I said. "I'm the victim." I opened the folder. I didn't pass the papers around. I held them up one by one. "Exhibit A," I said, "the text messages between Dad and me. This is for travel only, flights and hotels." Dad agreed. Mia agreed. I pulled out the next sheet. "Exhibit B, the transaction log. $22,000 in 4 hours. Not one flight, not one hotel, but 3 MacBook Pros, 2 Louis Vuitton bags, a Cartier bracelet. These aren't travel supplies. These are liquid assets." "So she likes nice things," Aunt Linda argued, though her voice wavered. "She's going through a divorce." "She didn't keep them," I said, dropping the bombshell I had been saving. "Riley." Riley pulled a tablet from her bag and placed it on the table. She pressed play on a video file. It was security footage. Grainy, but clear enough. Riley had called in a favor with a pie who had connections at the local pawn shop district. The video showed a man, Julian Vance, walking into a We Buy Gold and Electronics store. He was carrying the orange Hermes bag and 2 of the MacBooks. He walked out 5 minutes later counting a stack of cash. The room went dead silent. "That was taken yesterday morning," I said, "before I even arrived at the house. Mia bought the goods. She handed them to Julian in the parking lot. He sold them for 50 cents on the dollar. Mia didn't get a honeymoon. She laundered my money for a con artist." I looked at Robert. His face had drained of color. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. "Mia," I said softly. The anger was gone, replaced by a terrible pity. "Did you see any of that cash? Did Julian give you a dime?" Mia finally looked up. Her eyes were red, rimmed with dark circles. She looked around the table, at the aunts and uncles who had been defending her, at the father who had enabled her. "He said," Mia's voice was a whisper. "He said he was investing it for our future. He said the trip was metaphysical. We needed the capital to start our brand." "He stole from you, Mia," I said. "And because you used my card, you helped him steal from me." "I didn't know," Mia sobbed, the dam finally breaking. "I thought he loved me. Dad said he was a visionary. Dad liked him." "Don't bring me into this," Robert snapped, panic edging into his voice. I was deceived too. You were warned, I shot back, turning on him. I sent you his mugshot, and you still asked me to pay. You looked at the evidence of fraud, and you decided that preserving your ego was more important than the truth. You wanted me to pay $20,000 to cover up the fact that you let a wolf into the henhouse. I stood up, addressing the table. The bank has disputed the charges. The police report has been filed. The investigation is ongoing. Julian is likely already gone, but the debt remains. I looked at Aunt Linda and Uncle Jerry. You want compassion? Here is the compassion. I am not pressing charges against Mia personally, if she cooperates with the police to catch Julian. But I am not paying the bill. The debt for those items belongs to the person who signed the receipts. I can't pay that, Mia whispered, terrified. I have no money. Then you have a problem, I said. And Dad, you have a choice. You can bail her out again like you always do. You can sell your boat. You can dip into your retirement. You can pay for Julian's payday. Or, for the first time in your life, you can let her face the consequences. Robert looked at me with pure hatred. He realized I had stripped him of his power. I had exposed his parenting as a failure in front of his peers. Get out, Robert hissed. Gladly, I said, but Mia, if you want to fix this, call me without him. I walked out. This time, nobody tried to stop me. The fallout was swift and brutal, but it wasn't the catastrophe I had feared. It was a cleansing fire. Because I had been so proactive with the bank, setting the merchant codes, calling the fraud department immediately, and providing the police report identifying Julian, CD sided with me. They classified the transactions as friendly fraud familial theft, but crucially, they pursued the merchant chargebacks aggressively because the stores had failed to verify ID on such large purchases. The debt was removed from my credit report. The card was closed. But the real reckoning happened in the real world. Julian Vance was arrested 3 weeks later in Miami, trying the same scam on a widow. Mia's testimony, which she gave after a terrifying visit from a detective, helped seal his warrant. She admitted everything. She admitted she bought the items to give to him to sell. Because she cooperated, she avoided jail time, but she didn't avoid the reality of her life. Robert tried to save face. He spun stories to the extended family about how he had handled the situation, but the damage was done. Aunt Linda and Uncle Jerry had seen the video. They knew the truth. For the first time, the golden child myth was shattered. Robert retreated into a grumpy, isolated silence, spending his days in the garage, refusing to speak to me. I was okay with that. A month after the showdown, I was sitting in a coffee shop near my new office, reviewing the closing documents for my mortgage. I had used the bonus to pay it off, exactly as I planned. The door chimes rang. I looked up to see Mia. She looked different. She wasn't wearing designer clothes. She was wearing jeans and a simple sweater. She looked tired, but she looked solid, real. She ordered a black coffee and sat down opposite me. She didn't fidget. I got a job, she said. Oh, I asked, keeping my guard up. Influencing. No, she gave a dry, humorless laugh. Receptionist at a dental office. It pays $18 an hour. It sucks. I have to be there at 7:30 a.m. That's good, Mia, honestly. I have to pay Dad back, she said, tracing the rim of her cup. He ended up paying the difference to the stores to keep them from suing me civilly. He sold the boat. He reminds me of it every single day at breakfast. I'm sorry, I said, and it was a hard lesson. Don't be, Mia said. She looked up and her eyes were clear. You were right about everything, about Julian, about Dad, about me. She took a breath, and I saw the effort it took for her to say the next words. I am so sorry, Margaret. I felt entitled to your success because Dad always told me I was special. He told me I deserved things just for existing, and when you worked hard, he made it sound like you were just lucky or obsessed. I believed him. I thought your money was just family money. I felt a lump form in my throat. I had waited tea. Hurdy years to hear this. Thank you, I whispered. I'm not asking for money, Mia said quickly, raising her hands. I wanted to know if maybe one day we could just be sisters, not the successful one and the mess. Just sisters. I don't want to talk to Dad about my problems anymore. He just tells me what I want to hear. I need someone who will tell me the truth. I looked at her. I saw the 28-year-old woman who was finally, painfully, growing up. I saw the wreckage of our childhood, orchestrated by a father who needed to be the hero, leaving us to fight for scraps of validation. I reached across the table and took her hand. It was rough, she had been working. I'd like that, I said. But if you ever ask me for a credit card again, I will have you arrested myself. Mia laughed. It was a genuine sound, light and free. Deal, I'm strictly cash only these days anyway. We sat there for another hour, talking about nothing and everything. For the first time, I wasn't the bank, and she wasn't the charity case. We were just two survivors of the same war, finally finding peace in the demilitarized zone. I drove home that evening with the windows down. The air smelled like autumn. I had my house. I had my career. I had my boundaries. And for the first time, I had a sister. The bonus was gone, spent on the mortgage, on legal fees, on peace of mind. But looking at the empty passenger seat where the ghost of my father's expectations used to sit, I knew I had come out richer than I ever could have imagined.